All right, we're back on TMM time. This is going to be for Texas Movement Media. Again, our focus for 2026 is really redefining what our diet is on the algorithm. Okay? I have a bunch of topics here that I think would be beneficial, that are a little bit more, I think, useful to the younger demographic than some of the male-female dynamic conversations that have been kind of recycled. And because we're all in a little bit more of a financially compressed time, I think it's time to work a little bit smarter rather than harder. So for those of you that are watching TMM from afar and deciding what level of engagement you want to have with us, and what level of potential partnership you might want to have with us, I think it's good that we constantly reiterate what our real philosophy is. We are trying to be first principles based, best practices for primarily American culture. And American culture is dictated usually between the demographic of 18 to, we need to say 18 to 35 now. It used to be probably 18 to 27, or maybe even 15 to 27 back in the day. When you think about, Nipsey Hussle being assassinated at 33, and Tupac Shakur dying at 26, and them having very similar levels of cultural relevance and impact, particularly in the hip-hop community. And look, we don't know who organizes these things and who coordinates their careers and deaths and so forth. Let 50 Cent handle all that, okay? My job is to take what is being presented to my diaspora and filter it through a lens of common sense, okay? Because the East doesn't understand all the nuances of black culture, and frankly, neither do I. Partially because we don't know who owns what, okay? Now, it's an uphill battle here in Chicago because the suburbs are dictated by the city's culture. And who owns the city's culture? Okay? If it was being properly managed and owned, would we need to move to Indiana? Even the Bears are now considering relocating to Northwest Indiana. So, we need to start thinking about how things. First of all, the important thing to remember is, do you want to be a part of the future? Many people that are above the age of 50, certainly the age of 60, have no desire to improve the quality of life for anybody else other than themselves. They're looking at their brokerage accounts, they're looking at their bank accounts, they're looking at the Zillow house estimate on their property, and they are trying to keep up with the Joneses as far as what number will represent them on the day of their death. It's a stupid way to look at life, but that's their prerogative. One thing that is no longer going to happen, though, is the insistence by the Boomer and Gen X generation that the Millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha and beyond have no desire to work hard or have a desire to pay their dues or anything like that. We did not come up in a time where a college degree could be paid for by working a minimum wage job simultaneously. It was your generation that allowed tuition to escalate exponentially while minimum wage stayed completely stagnant. Also, while allowing housing prices to skyrocket, while selling all of the single-family homes to BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. and strive. And then complaining that millennials don't have a desire to get married or home ownership and anything like that. It was you that kept the antiquated child support and alimony system from the 1950s, while allowing Jewish feminism to infect every single patriarchal community that had a solid nuclear family. It was you that did not allow prenuptial agreements to be part of our education. Okay? It was you, with all of your Rocky Balboa mental toughness, that can't even tell your wife to be quiet, either in church or at home. And you've been paid very handsomely for your treason. So with all due respect, please leave us alone, so that we can clean up the mess that you made. Okay. Now, for you Jews, the Jewish community, you've raped every single bit of this culture. And you have the audacity to claim that you were the original Hebrews in the time of Exodus. And the most insulting thing about the time of Exodus is when Pharaoh asked the slaves to make bricks without straw. When Moses first came to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," Pharaoh increased the quota of bricks that had to be made to insult Moses. And he said, "Now you must gather your own brick, your own straw. It will not be provided for you anymore." So, however much you have used the Ten Commandments, whether it be the movie or the actual tablets, or the victim mentality that you stole from African Americans to enforce these selective and subjective harsh conditions, God is going to directly deal with you on that front. Okay? So for those of you independent media people, you focus on auditing your management, auditing your agents, auditing anybody with a Jewish last name or a Jewish connection to make sure that they're not stealing from you. Okay? And frankly, I'd recommend you do it with an Indian as well, just so that we can be clean and above board. This get over it mentality that you all have insulted us with for too long comes with an amazing level of entitlement. You think that we don't have functional careers or credit scores or real estate equity because we're eating avocado toast. That was an invention, a silly invention 10 years ago. You allowed, I went to college in 2006. It was only in 2014 that woke became used. And it really started around 2012 when Trayvon Martin was shot by George Zimmerman. Okay? Just Hispanic enough to not discuss his Jewish heritage. But it was his Jewish heritage that allowed him to sign autographs. Okay? In 2013, I was pulled over by a Hispanic officer who, because myself and another African American were in the car, we were treated exactly the same. Despite my wonderfully Caucasian features, they did not save me in that instance. And we have documentation to show from the mayor of Mesquite that stop was improperly conducted. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that we're going to reorganize how we view things racially in this country, because we're not benefiting from the current social landscape. We don't need Jewish supervision. We don't need it in our media. We don't need it in our legal system. We don't need it in our contracts. We don't need it in our business dealings, especially if you intend to steal from us at every opportunity. You're stealing from independent creators by shadow banning their views, making sure the algorithm is slanted against those who do not have connection to the larger organizations. And you're preventing independent creators from reaching out to each other and collaborating and having some type of social autonomy because you feel that only your agenda can be allowed on the algorithm or in the town square. Now, with regards to male and female dynamics in podcasts, it's become very, very clear that you all are being paid to rehash the same topics. Okay? Black women are being used directly by the Jewish agenda to be nothing but a nuisance. And I know African American women that are very, very intelligent, strong, capable professionals. I'd like to take this time to highlight the Not Guilty Boys, Andrew Wilkerson and Michael Campbell, attorneys based out of Dallas. Both good friends of mine that I've met in person, and they seem to be making efforts to highlight positive contributors to the local culture as well as the national conversation for all things related to legal matters. And I would definitely defer to them with regards to those types of things. And we're at the point now where our local government, we're very, very cautious of anybody in the local government, particularly even if they come out of the Divine Nine system. We're going to be looking at that very, very closely and auditing that very closely, especially if you want support from outside communities. The corruption that is happening within the fraternities and the sororities, and the stagnancy because of that talented 10th mindset has to be a thing of the past if you want anybody from Texas Movement or any vertical of Texas Movement to support you. Okay? I have nothing against Kappas or anything like that. You keep your candy canes and your tap dancing and whatever you like to do. I deliberately stayed away from those people because of my appearance. I did not want to have the connotation of that kind of excessively R&B pretty boy type of mentality because that reduces the gravitas you have as a leader. And so I love the idea of camaraderie. I love the idea of fraternity. But I don't believe that any kind of unnecessary paddling is necessary or any type of hazing. And I do not encourage my boys to join such organizations exclusively for the purposes of those type of networks. You can professionally network without any of that other nonsense. Okay? I know many great Qs, Alphas, Kappas, Sigmas, as well as the sororities. AKAs are a little bit troublesome, but you live and you learn. Look, all that being said is I have a desire to work with everyone. I have a desire to uplift everyone. But we've been infected by a lot of viruses, and we need to Dr. Sebi ourselves out of all of them. Okay? We've talked about the body. Okay, we've talked about our conversations, the male and female dynamics, the podcasts that we listen to, the algorithm that we feed ourselves with, and the way we engage with our parents. Look, we've all had, toxic conversations with our parents. Some of it comes from, mothers that were, upset and emotional. Some of it comes from fathers that were a little bit overbearing and, trying to do things that were out of their wheelhouse. Whatever. Okay, we're grown. And now it's time for us to take the leadership reins and redefine what we want this society to be. We have all the technology in the world at our fingertips. We have all the resources we need to make it happen. And we can do it on a streamlined budget if we don't do anything stupid. Okay? So we need to go back to best practices. If you made mistakes that exclude you from leadership, you need to take that loss on the chin. Okay? Did I take losses when it was time for me to give back 100 talents Haven't I explained every single time that I did that? Okay? You do not need to be Jesus in order to be able to say that this is the standard and this is how we're going to do things. Okay? Have you ever seen me at USA trials or Olympic trials? No. Because I did not meet the A standard. Okay? If you do not meet the A standard for leadership, sit down, make some potato salad, and let the men do the talking. All right? If you have some type of value that is useful to other people, not just your own wig collection, then we will bring you in on the conversation and we will allow you to make the most use of whatever silo you have expertise in. Okay? Nobody wants anybody to fail. Nobody wants anybody to be put in a corner like whatever Dirty Dancing said. All right? So, let's keep that in mind. Texas Movement Media is here to promote a new media landscape. It is not confrontational, but we will defend our principles as appropriate. So be very, very respectful of us, and in return, we will be respectful of you. All right, we will talk soon. Thank you.